And now we're going to talk to Dr. Brian Besong. He's the co-author of Faith and Reason. It's a compilation of stories from philosophers that have converted to the Catholic faith. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So, you know, I'm always so amazed when people in academics or philosophers convert to the Catholic faith. How unusual is it for this to happen?
Well, you know, I think it's fairly unusual insofar as the vast majority of philosophers are atheists, but the trend is increasingly common. And so this was one of the reasons why Jonathan and I wanted to edit the book, is because these are stories that philosophers are aware of, but the lay public is not.
And you yourself are a convert as well, Brian. Talk about that and maybe what attracted you to compile the stories of other converts.
So I was raised Southern Baptist and became a Presbyterian in high school. I was very attracted to the Calvinist trend within Protestant thought. But after marrying a Catholic, I began to explore the early church as a way of sort of reconciling our differences. And so that really motivated me to become Catholic. It was really a short jump from reading about the early church to become a Catholic. And it was seeing the sort of writing on the wall there that motivated me to try to get other stories like mine, so that other philosophers could be more aware of the reasons why.
Yeah. Now, each of the 12 stories are unique in and of themselves, but is there a common theme that sort of runs through each of these conversion stories?
Certainly, and those who have been exposed to the conversion literature are probably familiar with many of the themes. So it's the idea of an authority that can make sure that the tradition is passed on, a plausible view of human nature and of God, among other things. But what makes these stories interesting is that as philosophers, they're quite capable of reasoning through all the potential objections. So although many of the themes are common to philosophers and non-philosophers converting, philosophers really can reason through the back and forths.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned earlier about your conversion experience into the faith as a teenager, which is amazing in and of itself, but also that look at the early church fathers. And oftentimes we hear that in academic worlds, that original kind of thought spurned by the early church fathers. Can you explore that a little bit with us?
Yeah, so, as a Protestant, I was always given the notion, it was rarely explicitly said, but I was given the notion that the early church was much like the Protestant church of today, primitive, focused on the Bible. And as I explored the earliest church documents, the documents that arose from the first, say, 300 years after Christ, you really see a strong, notion that the bishops have authority, that the Eucharist is really, truly Christ's body and blood. Traditions that are just simply not maintained within the Protestant denominations.
Yeah. When you bring that up about the Protestants' understanding of, the early church, how did your family react when you decided to become a Catholic as a teenager?
Well, initially my parents were quite skeptical. My dad had been raised Catholic and had left the Catholic faith before I was born. And so my dad was interested, but both of my parents were pretty skeptical because they had been Protestant. My mom was raised Protestant in a sort of anti-Catholic climate. And so both of them had been Protestant for at least 10 years, my mom, 35, 40 years. And so it took some persuasion, but in the end, they actually became Catholic too, as so did my sister. Now, the rest of my family has been more skeptical, and persuasion has not been as effective, but my family actually became Catholic.
Well, you've done good. That's great. Thank you so much, and welcome home. We're pleased. It's just what a blessing that you've all joined at the table. That's beautiful. So tell us then about the book that you co-authored, where people can get their own copy. I know it's published by Ignatius, so tell us a little bit about access to the book.
Yeah, so anyone who's interested can go on Ignatius's website and buy directly from the publisher. Of course, it's on Amazon and where books can be found, Barnes and Noble, etc. So it's very easily available.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being with us. I know you probably head back to school. You're at Ohio Dominican now, so you must head back soon.
That's right. We start next week.
Good. Well, great. Good luck with the academic year, and thanks so much for spending some time with us.
It's my pleasure, Bonnie. Thank you.